So the Homestuck animated pilot dropped and I somehow managed to catch it within the first minute. So let's talk about it. This pilot is very obviously for people who have already read Homestuck. If you have not read Homestuck, this thing is incomprehensible. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Lots of adaptations rely on the assumption that the person watching the adaptation is already familiar with the source material. And when you're adapting Homestuck, that's a very fair thing to assume. It's hard to overstate just how much Homestuck dominated fandom internet culture in the early to mid 2010s. This thing was everywhere. You could not escape it. So for the adaptation to make the assumption that whoever's watching is already at least aware of Homestuck, I can't blame it for that. And in fairness to it, the start of Homestuck basically goes exactly like this thing goes. The start of Homestuck is pretty incomprehensible in and of itself. Homestuck throws you into the deep end and just sort of expects you to get used to it. So for the adaptation not to do that would basically make it an unfaithful adaptation right out of the gate. But it's just one more thing that's reminding me how difficult this is going to be to do, because Homestuck is just so unconventional in how it presents its story. This pilot basically had no choice but to bank on people already knowing about Homestuck. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just very obvious. As for the pilot itself, I do really like how they just embraced the style of the comic. Instead of trying to find a way to get around it, they just fully made it part of the show's style and animation. The way the characters are constantly shown through literal comic panels and physically interacting with them is a very cool way to keep the original style of Homestuck. I saw this comment that I overall agree with. I already touched on some things weren't explained the best in that, again, it's banking on you knowing what Homestuck is. But as to that first point, it's a bit fast-paced. I think that part is unavoidable, regardless of what you do. Because you need to remember the comic is presented like this. Every page is just one panel. You need to click through each page to get to the next panel. That is going to slow it down in your mind. When you turn it into an animated format, it's gonna speed it up a lot. And that's definitely going to take some mental adjusting. One thing that did consistently fall flat for me were the fourth wall breaks. Fourth wall breaks are something Homestuck relies on a lot, and I don't know if this is really something to blame the pilot for. I never loved Homestuck's fourth wall breaks. Fourth wall break jokes are something that I find kind of cheap to begin with, so it's only natural that I wouldn't really like them here, and I didn't. But overall, I really enjoyed this pilot. I do hope it gets picked up and we get to see a full Homestuck series. I want that for the chaos. Also, casting Karkat just to give him one line and a little after credits joke was hilarious. Best move ever.